NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has now stated that NATO will stay united no matter who wins the US presidential election. Speaking in Berlin alongside German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Rutte describes the US as an integral part of the alliance and explains that NATO is working with the US in the Indo-Pacific region over North Korea's involvement in Ukraine. Listen in.
And on the American elections, whoever wins those elections, we will work with Kamala Harris, we will work with Donald Trump and make sure that the alliance stays united. I have no doubt, because it is in our interest. It is in our interest here, but also for the United States.
So there you heard it. I want to bring in Dr. Bradley Thayer back into the broadcast. Dr. Bradley Thayer, interesting comments that are coming in as far as NATO is concerned, and a lot of speculation on that front as well, because there are two major wars currently on in the world. What is your assessment as far as the public of America is concerned? Will that somewhere be a voting factor for them? The foreign policy and the specific takes on the Ukraine-Russia war as well as the Israel-Hamas war?
Well, foreign policy always has a role to play, of course, in American elections. But in this instance, in 2024, domestic concerns are trumping foreign policy concerns. That is, concerns about immigration, concerns about inflation, the state of the economy, crime, and other and the direction of the country, rather than foreign policy. So you do see, however, a stark contrast between Trump and Harris on Ukraine, on that war. If Harris is elected, then we'll see certainly a continuation of Biden's policies of support, strong support for Ukraine. And if Trump is elected, of course, we'll see a very different course with respect to the war. As Trump has said, he's determined to bring that war to a close.
Yes.
So there are great concerns in foreign policy, of course, but I don't think that they have the impact that they've had in some previous U.S. elections.
At the same time, Dr. Bradley Thayer, why do you think that certain comments regarding the NATO have now been put out?
Well, they've been put out, of course, because NATO wants to convey the message to both camps, Harris and to Trump, that, of course, NATO will be willing to work with either candidate, or Harris or Trump, to be elected. So the message that NATO is conveying, of course, is not much of a surprise. That the Secretary General will, of course, and NATO will stand by to work with either candidate. So I think in general, NATO, of course, would prefer Harris. Most European states would prefer Harris to be elected today due to the continuation of the Biden policies, which most European states favor. Although not all. Some significant NATO members, of course, have some difficulties. So that message, I think, is one of signaling a reassurance to both candidates that they'll be willing, of course, to work with either.
And lastly, Dr. Bradley Thayer, I want to understand from you, which camp, in your assessment, has then been able to convince the people of America that they are the right choice as far as some of the global wars are concerned, and in either simmering them down or bringing them to a complete halt? Donald Trump has time and again come and said that Netanyahu is a dear friend, Putin is a dear friend. Those are the sort of words he uses. Kamala Harris, of course, she's been a part of the administration under whose watch some of these wars have broken out. So who has really been able to convince the American public, in your assessment?
In my assessment, that Trump has been able to convey a stronger sense of the American people, that they want the Ukraine war to end. They want the war in the Middle East, the horrific attacks against Israel on October 7th, of course, of 2023, and the aftermath of that, to be brought to a conclusion with strong support for Israel and a stark warning for Iran as well. And Trump is advancing those messages. Additionally, Trump has signaled his strong support for key partners like India, and Taiwan, as well as reassuring key allies in the Indo-Pacific, Japan and the Philippines, of strong U.S. Support to deal with the Chinese Communist Party's aggression, for example, in the South China Sea against the Philippines at Sabina Shoal, Second Thomas Shoal, and elsewhere. So that's my assessment of the present situation.
All right, I want to bring in Dr. Daniel Wagner into the conversation on that note. Dr. Daniel Wagner, I want to understand from you, of course, the health of the American economy also been a major sticking point as far as this election cycle is concerned. Your assessment on which candidate has really been able to convince America that they will come and be able to, or their economic plans will be what America requires right now?
Well, the idea that the economy is a central issue in this election is a bit of a mystery to me. If you look at the stock market performance during the Biden era, it has been at a record most of the time. It's certainly at a record right now. If you look at unemployment, the Biden administration has brought down unemployment dramatically. They've brought down inflation dramatically. I think the American voter is confusing perhaps the difference between inflation rate and the price of things at the grocery store. Once those prices have gone up, they don't tend to come down very far or very fast. But that's different than them going up, continuing to go up. So it's a bit of a curiosity to me because most American voters, they have plenty of money in their pocket and the economy is doing remarkably well. The Economist magazine refers to it as the envy of the world. So I'm really not sure why, to the extent that it has resonated, the idea that the economy is doing badly is resonating with people. Yet, perhaps for some it does. There's always voters who are left out of the upward trajectory. And among those people, certainly there would be some resonance. If I may just go back to the foreign policy question for a moment. The issue of Ukraine remains in the background. But in the foreground is the issue of Israel and Palestine. And there are enough voters with enough concerns about this that it could have an impact on the trajectory of the election. For instance, in Michigan, where there is a heavy Arab American percentage of the population, that is a real concern. And when you have foreign policy influencing the potential outcome of an election like that, you have to pay attention to it. This is based on emotion, it's based on history, it's based on ethnicity, and it's a curiosity in this election that it has so much impact. Ordinarily, as the previous speaker said, these types of things would not matter so much in the American election, but today, with everything that's going on, foreign policy matters more than it has in the past.
On that note, Dr. Daniel Wagner, I want to understand from you then, when Kamala Harris comes and says that I will do my best to put an end to the war, especially between Israel and Hamas, and Donald Trump asks, why haven't you done it yet? Because you've been the one in power. Does that put her in a tough spot?
Absolutely. No question about it. The Biden administration has had to walk a real tightrope since October 7th. On the one hand, of course, Israel is such a stalwart ally and American support is undeniable and will forever be there. But on the other hand, the nature of the Israeli response has prompted the Biden administration to tap the brakes, sometimes hard, and try to put some guardrails around Netanyahu and the Israeli government, largely unsuccessfully. And the reason is that in the end, I think the Biden administration knows, and certainly a Trump administration would know, that Israel is going to do and needs to do what it has to do to provide security for its people and to ensure security for its future. So in the end, that is what is going to govern the Israeli conflict, if you ask me. Of course, both Harris and Trump would want this thing to end quickly. I really don't understand how Trump can maintain that he is going to, fly in like some Superman and in one day with one arm tied behind his back find a resolution to this conflict in a very short time, or for that matter, in one day in Ukraine. And in Ukraine, that implies that he would be ultimately sacrificing Ukraine for Russia. I'm not sure that ultimately he has the power to do that, but I think that's his idea of how this would happen, because even though he's got plenty of communication and perhaps even influence with Putin, I don't see how he's going to change Putin's thinking or the course that Putin has been on for so many years now in Ukraine, just by the fact that he's been elected president. But there could be something that all of us don't know.
Dr. Daniel Wagner, before we let you go, sir, one last question also on immigration. In your assessment, how much of a weightage would the American voter be giving to the issue of immigration, or rather illegal immigration, as far as this election is concerned?
This is something that's extremely important to most Americans. The reason being that large cities and small towns have all been impacted one way or another by legal and illegal immigration. The issue of illegal immigration is very visible to the average American voter because you can see workers lined up in streets in some towns looking to find work. And the question is, are they legal or illegal immigrants? But people are seeing it. If you go to an emergency room in a hospital, say at 7 or 8 p.m. in the evening, inevitably you're going to see illegal immigrants who are going there looking for free health care because they know that under U.S. law, they cannot be denied the ability to get free health care if they go to an emergency room. So these are the types of things that are visible to American voters and are influencing their thinking.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.